I'm Jeanette Pincus, and this is Thursday, February 13th, 2025, and I have the honor of interviewing Todd Chanon, who's been a past president of Jewish Family Service of Dallas. Thank you so much, Todd,
Thank you
for doing this for us. First, I'd like to ask you how you got involved with Jewish Family Service.
It's a really interesting story, for me anyway. A dear friend of blessed memory, Marty Goldman, who I think the entire city might know, got me involved because we were colleagues at work together and knew that I had an interest in wanting to get more involved in the community.
And when did you serve as president?
So I was president of Jewish Family Service from 2010 to 2012.
And what was your title during your tenure?
President of the board.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to think about that. I'm sorry. I was president of the board of directors.
Okay. Anybody, the various leaders that you worked with during your tenure?
So, yes, of course, I feel like I worked with some of the greatest leaders in the city of Dallas, but just to mention a few, I mean, in my immediate existence while during my term on the board, as well as leadership through Jewish Family Service, Bill Roth, Robin Sachs, Joel Littman, they were the preceding officers before I got involved. And of course, Frank Risch and Harlan Pollock and Kyra Efren, and I mean, I could go on and on and on. The city has been very cooperative with Jewish Family Service, and Jewish Family Service is lucky to have the leaders that they've had.
JFS, the programs and services, I know they've evolved as the community's needs have changed too. What would you recall was going on during your tenure?
So I got involved right after Katrina, which brought a complexity of different services forward for Jewish Family Service, things that we were doing, things that we had done in the past, things that we were no longer doing. So it was very interesting because everybody was doing responsibilities that were true volunteerism, where we didn't know how we would turn the lights on in the building, but yet we were organizing food drives and clothes drives for people across the entire state. It was really wonderful. It was a great experience. Speaking to programming, though, by diversion, you know, you talk about those successful programs and then programs that we might have done previously that we no longer done. I got involved right about the time where we were starting the analytics of whether or not we wanted to continue in adoption services. And it was extremely rewarding for me because of the thought processes that went through the decision of no longer participating in that arena, quite frankly, because we couldn't be the best at it that other providers were, and Jewish Family Service, if they don't do it right, they don't want to do it at all.
I know that we get to celebrate 75 years this year for JFS.
It's amazing.
And you mentioned some highlights just now about what went on during your tenure. Is there any other memorable moment?
There's a huge one, which I was hopeful for a follow-up question, which is that along with Louis Zwei and myself, we were very instrumental in bringing forward the community program for special needs. And Jewish Family Service housed that program, and it has continued to flourish for our entire community.
What services does that provide?
So, I don't know everything. I'm at a loss because they've bifurcated it a little bit into other areas. Right. But by way of example, PLAN, which is under the Jewish Family Services auspices, is a vocational and it stands for, what does it stand for? Living with, I'm sorry, I'm at a
That's
loss,
okay, that's okay.
but it's a community center for
Yeah.
adults with special needs and helping them with their daily activities in terms of both, having something to do, having a clubhouse and friends to meet, but also allowing for vocational opportunities and job placement.
That's terrific.
Yeah, it's really a neat program.
Um, were there any partnerships that you can, during the time you were there too, between Jewish Family Service and other Jewish community agencies? As you kind of mentioned it just now when the
Well, I think it's a
special
goal of
needs
Jewish
center.
Family Service to be available to all of our community partners. What's extremely important for Jewish Family Service is to continue to be able to provide their wraparound services. And those wraparound services include the needs of what other organizations might need, such as counseling services or vocational services or play therapy. So it has been historic where Jewish Family Service partners with other organizations and allows for them to either come into the Jewish Family Service doors or for Jewish Family Service to go through their doors and participate with each other that way.
Were there coalitions with organizations or government agencies outside the Jewish community that you were familiar, that y'all worked with? I'm thinking like United Way.
I mean, we did work, but I
Foundation.
don't think of that as a government agency. I apologize. So yes, we worked with all kinds of different agencies. United Way was a huge sponsor and contributor to Jewish Family Service, and they still are. And I know that there's a lot of, as I mentioned before, wraparound services that are provided to some of the different healthcare institutions around town. And there's a good partnership with Parkland. There's good partnerships with all of the schools, so I'm not sure if that's answering your question.
Yes, that is.
The logo of Jewish Family Service is an open door, and that's with intent. It is to signify that their door is always open for anybody in need.
You mentioned, I know Katrina happened during your watch when you were in there. Was there any other national, international events that also were going on at that time that you remember?
Well, we had just come off of the Great Recession, Depression, whatever it was actually entitled, but economically the country was at a very low time, and quite frankly we were afraid because we didn't know what that meant for us. So there was a large focus on continuing to expand our services and look for different areas in which we could help benefit our community. And if that translated into different business models for Jewish Family Service, those were things that we explored and analyzed to figure out, did it make sense and bring value back to our community.
Do you recall any prominent community supporters of Jewish Family Service at the time, like donors, philanthropists, volunteers that come to mind?
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Zale family. They've been a big part of Jewish Family Service for many, many years, and we're very grateful and blessed that they have contributed to the agency in the ways that they have contributed, both financially as well as man hours. But they're not alone. Our entire community comes together and rallies around the needs of each other, and JFS is simply a vehicle in which that's allowed to be done.
What changes do you feel have been experienced in the Dallas Jewish community? What have you seen?
Growth, exponential growth. It's amazing to me how when I became involved, I'm not from Dallas, although I am a Texan, so I feel like I've been here my whole life, but regardless, I feel like the city has grown, the needs of the city have grown, the needs of the people have grown, and as a result, Jewish Family Service continues to figure out ways to try to help.
You had mentioned this before, but I'm kind of asking maybe in a different way.
Okay.
What changes did you experience at Jewish Family Service? You mentioned like the adoption services was something that had been around had been a program of JFS for a really long time, and it was no longer something that could be done. Was there anything else that was going on that you brought up too about the special needs was one that started with you? Anything else that you can recall? Was there growth, like was more staff being hired in certain areas? Or?
So, well, you bring up a great point, which is probably my greatest accomplishment, I feel like, as past president of Jewish Family Service, which was the hiring of Kathy Barker. So during my tenure, we had looked for ways to continue to grow our agency and realized that succession planning was imperative. Michael Fleischer was our previous CEO and executive director and did a phenomenal job and helped the agency grow to the place where it is today. But he also recognized that he couldn't do it alone. And so because of him and his willingness to want to share the platform, he allowed for the hiring of an assistant, and that assistant is in charge today and continuing to make our city a warm and caring environment.
Can you also recall any initiatives that increase interest in Jewish Family Service and its mission that you see that JFS is doing or has done?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
If there was any initiatives that, I guess, to get the word out more of what Jewish Family Service had to offer to the community to increase awareness about what JFS.
So I'm struggling because I'm struggling with the word initiative. I think that the reality of Jewish Family Service, yes, there are initiatives in play and there's strategy in play, and what they are today is completely different than what they are when I served. So I don't look at their opportunities as true initiatives as much as the way that I view Jewish Family Service is based on need. And what I think that they're very flexible about and adaptive with is the opportunity to help people when that need arises. And so it's not always that they know about it. Oftentimes they don't know. They think that they're involved already and don't know how they can continue to expand their services. But I do believe that they are a great organization with an open ear, willing to listen and willing to continue to grow on the basis of the needs of our community.
The key staff that was there during your tenure, you mentioned Mary Barker and Michael Kathy Barker and Michael Fleischer. Was there any others that you felt like you want to mention?
Honestly, every single employee at Jewish Family Service should be mentioned. Every one of them does heroes work on a daily basis. They're happy to do it. They show up daily with smiles on their faces. They want to continue to help. Yes, I do want to mention all of them by name, but honestly, I can't remember all of them by name, but I think that they are all deserving to be mentioned because every person there wants to help our community.
Are there any special experiences or stories in your tenure that you'd like to share that you haven't had a chance to yet?
I think one of the most meaningful stories for myself was being involved in the Special Needs Initiative, and that was an initiative because when it started it was not an actual business model for Jewish Family Service in any way. But why it was so relatable for me is that when I became involved, I too hired an adult with special needs to work in our business, and that turned into multiple employees with special needs that we continue to employ through today.
This is the last question I've got for you. What is something about Jewish Family Service that you think is not commonly known, that maybe, I don't know if you've mentioned it yet or not, that you want the community to know and understand?
I think that my mentioning of the logo is really imperative for our community to recognize that nobody will ever be turned away. The door is always open. Jewish Family Service wants to help and continues to make our community bigger and better every single day.
Todd, thank you so much for
Thank
your time,
you.
and thank you so much for the work that you did with Jewish
Well,
Family
you're sweet.
Service.
Thank you.
Thank you.